Welcome to the room. This is Music News Power Hour. We will be discussing some breaking headlines that pertain to the music industry here shortly. Go ahead and ping your friends on into the room and go ahead and take this opportunity to follow your moderators here on stage, the speakers with the green moderator icon. Hang tight with us. Ping your friends into the Music News Power Hour room, and we're going to get started with the countdown here shortly. Angela, hey, how are you? How are things across the pond?
Oh, fantastic! Like we've heard in throughout the rooms all day today. Everyone in the UK can't believe how beautiful and sunny it is this week. Long may it continue. How's New York?
You know what? New York is nice and hot, and it's a kind of a nice thing because it makes us all want to get out of our teeny tiny little apartments.
I
I
hear
love it.
that.
I love it. And we begin our countdown. We are leading into some headlines. As we read our headlines, you can raise your hand to join the discussion. And we're off.
And welcome to the Music News Power Hour here on the Music Industry City Broadcast Network. I'm Peter Schwing, and please join me in welcoming my co-host Eli Window and our UK correspondent Angela Randall.
Hi, Peter. It's great to see you today.
Right on.
Hello, hello.
Right on. Great to see everyone. All right, so today we are going to talk about Roblox is sued for over $200 million by music publishers. Twitch crackdown is getting more intense, brought to you by music publishers. And the question is, would you invest in an artist or a band? Over in the UK, there's some live streaming talks, and there's also some Brexit issues. And Viagogo argues against lawsuit for its COVID cancellation policy. And as always, our daily Spotify update. But first, let's take a look at this day in music history with Eli Window. Eli.
All right, dude, let's take a look at this day in history. A monumental day indeed, June 10th. On this date, 1982, Eddie Harris from the Shirelles died of a heart attack after a show in Atlanta, Georgia. They were the first all-girl group to have a #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. On this date, June 10th, 2004, Ray Charles died, aged 73. Glaucoma had rendered Charles blind at the age of 6. He scored the 1962 U.S. #1 single, I Can't Stop Loving You, plus over 30 other U.S. top 40 singles, and the 2005 U.S. #1 album, Genius Loves Company. Charles, who was married twice and fathered 12 children by 9 different women, appeared in the 1980 hit movie The Blues Brothers, was also the winner of 17 Grammy Awards. In memory, Ray Charles. Moving on, birthdays today. Born on this date, 1922, Judy Garland, singer, actress. She played Dorothy in the 1939 film Wizard of Oz. Click your heels together 3 times. Born this date, 1961, Kim Deal, American singer, songwriter, and musician with the rock band Pixies and the Breeders. Also born this date, 1967, Darren Robinson, who was also known as Buffy, the Human Beatbox, and DJ Dr. Nice Rapper, and member of the Fat Boys. And born this date, 1973, American singer-songwriter Faith Evans. Happy birthday. Moving on this day in history, 1977, Joe Strummer and Nikki Heaton from The Clash were each fined £5, or $8.50 in US dollars, by a London court for spray painting The Clash on a wall. Quite a punishment. And on this date, 2016, Rod Stewart was knighted in the Queen's Birthday Honors List for services to music and to charity. Stewart said, I've led a wonderful life and I've had a tremendous career thanks to the generous support of the great British public. This monumental honor has topped it off, and I couldn't ask for anything more. Who could ask for anything more, indeed? And that's it for this day in history. Back over to you, Peter.
All right. Thank that. Yeah, that $5 there. That was pretty. £5. That was pretty hefty.
Well, yeah, they meant business, right?
Exactly. All right. So let's get to it. This is where we comb the internet for music industry news that we believe should be discussed. We'll start the readings in just a moment, but first, I'd also like to thank everyone who is viewing the show in AltSpace VR and on our live video feeds. How you doing? All right. And if you want to check out the live video feed, you can go to musicindustrycity.com and it's right there on the homepage. You see like live video goes here and you can click and see what goes on behind the scenes. And to set the stage for the roundtable conversation, we begin by reading key sections of media pieces. If you'd like to provide commentary on one of today's topics, simply raise your hand during the reading. To stay up to date on this and other programming, follow the Music Industry City group by tapping the green house at the top. And you may register for free at musicindustrycity.com to obtain access to exclusive content. And remember to follow all our green button co-hosts and commentators as they take the stage. So let's get to it. Right, and this first piece is from Music Business Worldwide, and you can keep up with all of the headlines discussed in today's episode and throughout the week by going to musicindustrycity.com and clicking on the show notes graphic. That is, once again, musicindustrycity.com and click on the show notes graphics. And Roblox sued for over $200 million by music publishers who allege copyright infringement. A group of indie and major music publishers are, via the National Music Publishers Association, NMPA, suing video gaming platform Roblox for over $200 million in damages in the U.S., alleging widespread copyright infringement by the company. The news was confirmed by NMPA President and CEO David Israelite during his annual State of the Industry speech, in which he accused Roblox of, quote, rampant ignorance of music licensing requirements. NMPA's lawsuit against Roblox was filed today on behalf of the plaintiffs, including Abco Music, Records, Big Machine, Concord, Pulse, Deadmau5, Downtown Music Publishing, Hypnosis, Cobalt, and many others. Missing from that list, though, is Warner Music Group, which acquired a minority stake in Roblox in January, and Sony Music Group, which has partnered with Roblox on in-game events by artists, including Lil Nas X and more recently Zara Larsson. Roblox went public in March on the New York Stock Exchange and subsequently hit a $45 billion company valuation. Its current market cap sits at $51.9 billion, according to Google Finance data. David Israelite said Roblox has made hundreds of millions of dollars by requiring users to pay every time they upload music onto the platform, taking advantage of young people's lack of understanding about copyright, and then they take virtually no action to prevent repeat infringement or alert users to the risks they are taking. He claims that Roblox maintains a library of, quote, hundreds of thousands of songs, including a portfolio of commercial tracks that Israelite says Roblox has refused to license. The NMPA alleges that songs recorded by artists including Ariana Grande, Imagine Dragons, Deadmau5, Ed Sheeran, and more are being utilized in Roblox without due compensation for their writers and copyright holders. Additionally, Israelite also officially launched a major ramp-up for NMPA's takedown campaign against Amazon-owned Twitch, which we're going to be talking about in the next article, another world's most popular video creation and gaming platforms with over 9 million active streamers. He also said in that one, quote, Twitch should serve its users by fully licensing music, which would allow the platform to flourish and copyright owners to be properly compensated. This is, why this is important. Because, and this is something I was talking about last year when we started seeing the initial Twitch takedown notices, and we started seeing this uptick in virtual reality and extended reality and everything. And people are playing lots and lots of music, and there's DJ parties, and there's a lot going on that, all I could think was, wow, how are they going, first of all, when is the music industry going to come after this? Second is, how are they going to monitor this? Because we are on a completely different platform. This isn't, we are completely, it's like a little bit more off the grid. And how can you monitor, Altspace, Sansar, Neos? It becomes all these platforms are popping up. Wave was there, but now Wave has moved over to they do the licensing because they're doing live and with VR and everything. So it's different types of platforms. But these, this whole virtual reality space is we overuse the term wild, wild west. I think this is more, space exploration and trying to figure out like how to find where the music is.
This is truly one of the final frontiers, and consider also the explosion that's happened in performances and usage of music like this in the absence of live shows. And what does that do to the climate of this conversation as well? So this, yeah, I like what you said. It's not exactly the wild, wild west. It's more like the final frontier.
Yeah, and including on that, and we're going to talk about this also later. We're going to talk about live streaming and the value in the UK. So we're going to be talking about that in just a moment. So it ties all together. So if anybody is in the space, wants to comment on any of this, feel free to raise your hand and join the conversation, because we're going to go right into Twitch. And I promise I will not get on my soapbox today. That was last week with this whole Twitch thing. But the Twitch music crackdown just got worse. Cover songs are now getting blocked. All right. If anybody's been following this one, it was more of a matter of time. And so the article, which is in Digital Music News, Twitch spent all of 2020 encouraging musicians to join the platform. Now its music licensing problem is exploding as cover songs are blocked. Musician and Twitch partner A. Trey says she received an email from Twitch about her cover songs. It told her that performing cover songs could wind up in her receiving a DMCA strike against her channel. Twitch has a very strict 3 strikes you're out policy it enforces because it refuses to license music from major labels properly. Quote, previously, Twitch said it was fine as long as you're controlling every aspect of the music. So I was playing the guitar and singing, she said. And continuing, so I should have been fine, but now they're saying I cannot have covers of music. A-Tray can still stream herself performing the covers, but the audio will have to be removed for her VOD, video on demand. Covers still breach copyright infringement laws over the composition of a song, even if the artist is singing and playing the guitar. According to Twitch's community guidelines, covers are permitted as long as, quote, all audio elements are produced by the creator. And these guidelines may be revised in the coming days as Twitch cover song result in more emails to creators, is the section here. Music publishers sent another batch of 1,000 DMCA takedown notifications to streamers at the end of May. Twitch informed users that the new batch of notices is related strictly to VODs instead of live streams. The vast majority of those DMCA strikes were for streamers listening to music in the background while playing games. Twitch refuses to license music, so only rights-cleared music can be used on the platform. And then Twitch goes on saying, quote, we are actively speaking with music labels about solutions that could work for creators as well as rights holders. And they said Twitch's email to content creators continues. Twitch did not, but they said not, they didn't specify which right holders the DMC strikes came from. Twitch received a massive 2 years worth of DMCA strikes twice during 2020. The summer batch of DMCA notices targeted streamers who kept VODs on their channel with copyrighted music in the background. While things move slowly on the industry side of things, Twitch is aware of the problem. Last year, Twitch hired a new music partnership and licensing manager. Twitch sought someone with 10 years of experience in development or legal expertise in digital music. The stated goal of the position was to, quote, negotiate strategic partnership deals with key music industry players. All right, so we talked about this last week, and I like I said, I promise I won't get on my soapbox. But the last week was Twitch said, oh, hey, we just got sorry about that, Twitch streamers. We just got another batch from now the music publishers, and we didn't know this was coming. And I said, yeah, you actually did know this was coming because they told you it was coming after, the RIAA was doing their thing last year. Twitch, of course, has blamed the music industry and said to their content creators, hey, it's not our fault, it's the music industry's fault. And so they've been playing this game of, putting their content creators against the music creators. There's a lot going on here. And one of the things that in their terms and conditions, if you were to read it, what Twitch says, and when they talk about cover songs, it is rather vague. And they might have updated. I might have updated now with this, but it was saying that, just make sure it doesn't sound. It has to sound exactly like in this, but it doesn't have to sound like this. And make sure, and you want to do your best to make sure. So again, they're putting the ownership on their streamers of saying you need to make sure that it sounds something different, but it still has to sound the same. It is so vague. And if you look at the terms and conditions, that's basically not if they were to enforce everything, 90% of the music would dry up on Twitch because DJ streams, no. So, anybody have some extra thoughts on this or has to deal with any of this?
I, I just wanted to quickly say that, the more we talk about this and we talk about how Twitch is pointing fingers at the music industry and then at the content creators and everywhere except at themselves, I just want to say that this sounds so much to me like the cartoon of the king in the castle looking down at two armies approaching to attack his castle. One army has pitchforks, the other army has torches, and the king says, how am I going to defeat both the pitchfork army and the torch army? And the king's advisor says, you don't have to defeat either one of them. You just have to convince the torch people that the pitchfork people are coming for their torches.
That's great.
That's what this feels like to me, with pointing fingers at the industry and then pointing fingers at the content creators. There, it feels like a king standing up in his castle deciding he doesn't have to fight, he just has to pit the armies against one another.
Didn't we see this in the U.S. for a certain amount of years? Yeah, I mean I like Twitch. I really like Twitch. I want this to work out. I want to stop talking about it. And I know there's other people that want me to stop talking about it too. So with that being said, I'm going to stop talking about it. Move on to Viagogo. Also, and hey, James, who is in our live stream there, and he said Eli with the hot take. So right on. Good to see you, James. Thanks for joining the live stream. And if anybody else wants to see what's going on, you can go to musicindustrycity.com and the live stream broadcast is there, or you can head over to YouTube.
Hey,
Viagogo.
James, thank you.
Viagogo argues against class action status for lawsuit over its COVID cancellations policy. Viagogo is trying to stop a lawsuit filed over its COVID cancellation policies in Florida from being granted U.S.-wide class action status. There have been a number of lawsuits regarding ticket refunds during the COVID pandemic. Of course, disputes usually arise when events are significantly postponed, as they have been over the last 15 months, and relate to whether or not ticket buyers are due refunds, even if an event hasn't been officially canceled. The actual legal obligations of promoters and ticket agents vary from country to country, though whatever the rules say, they are always more complicated when ticket touts and secondary ticketing websites are involved, because there are more entities sitting between the event promoter and the actual ticket buyer. Viagogo was sued last year by Lauren Shiflett, who had bought tickets for a COVID-affected tool show via their site. Her lawsuit said, quote, even though many thousands of events have been canceled, Viagogo wrongly refuses to classify events as canceled, allowing it to maintain dominion and control over funds, which it has no legal right to possess or use for its own business purposes. The lawsuit accused Viagogo of breach of contract and unjust enrichment, as well as violations under Florida's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act. It also sought class action status within the state of Florida. And according to Law 360, the secondary ticketing company previously but unsuccessfully tried to have the lawsuit dismissed, or at least its class action status within Florida denied. Then last month, Shiflett sought to extend her litigation so to represent a class of Viagogo customers from all over the U.S. So in a new legal filing, Viagogo presents an assortment of arguments as to why the court should deny that request. And that includes the fact that Viagogo customers with tickets to COVID-affected events have often been offered a voucher with 125% of the original ticket purchase, and the court would need to identify which class members would prefer to take the voucher than a cash refund. And also that Shiflett has not, it reckons, provided sufficient analysis of the impact different state laws around the U.S. could have had on claims of any nationwide class. All right, so this is something we saw this with Ultra Music, where, and speaking of Florida, Ultra Music, Ultra Fest, not Ultra Music, Ultra Fest was saying that, oh, we didn't cancel the festival to their customers, so they weren't giving refunds. But then Ultra said to its vendors, oh, yeah, by the way, we canceled our festival, so we don't have to pay you either.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. I mean, I think the pitchfork torch conversation applies here as well, because it seems like now everybody's got to sue somebody, and all the wrong people are being looked at to take the blame. So this doesn't rub me the right way either. It feels like somebody has to step in and make some sense of this for these all these groups.
Wasn't there a piece that I think you might have spoke about it a few weeks ago on Viagogo? You remember what that was?
Yeah, Viagogo was reassuring, it was customer facing. They were reassuring customers that the secondary market wasn't going to become flooded once the tickets started to go on sale for certain events, due to sort of non-information and event insurance being sort of up in the air at the time. Viagogo was sort of reassuring their customers that they weren't going to be buying up all the tickets when they go on sale and then raise all the prices to sell them in the secondary market, but that they were instead going to position themselves as potentially acquiring tickets from those who had them for events and now don't want to go ahead because for whatever reason their plans have changed, or if they were nervous about attending events based on the current COVID situation at the time. It was unrelated, but Viagogo always seems to sort of find itself in the forefront of this because, frankly, it's just the kind of go-to for the secondary market when, once the sort of direct to consumer, like your Ticketmasters and your Live Nations, and over here AEG and Eventum and others, have done their on sale date. It's everybody looks for the dates on Viagogo because it's so far in advance for the most part. So, and of course other things we know about like ticket touts and that the secondary market is huge here.
Right on. Thanks for that. Yeah. All right, we are going to get away from lawsuits and we are going to talk about direct to fan model. So this one is also from Music Business Worldwide. And once again, if you want to follow along with any of these articles, you can go and see them in our show notes. That is at musicindustrycity.com. And you click on the show notes graphic, and that'll take you to all the headlines. And while I have this moment, I also want to announce that we started this week. We launched our podcast Daily Briefs. And you can find on your preferred podcast player, Music Industry City. Just put that into the search bar, and hopefully it shows up. And we put in daily briefs. And while we discuss more business-driven news here, that covers artists, new releases, tours, musical chairs. And, we talk about some music business news, and we say, hey, we might be talking about this later in the Music News Power Hour. So check that out. You can subscribe. And it's also, the link is in the show notes, so you can access your favorite podcast player. And this is the crucial role of the direct-to-fan model in a non-live music industry. So this is an op-ed piece from Nick Lawrence of the UK-based business management accounting firm Big Star. He explains why fulfilling the potential of a direct-to-fan model has grown in importance in a non-live music industry, and why doing so is all about understanding both artist and fan. This is going to tie in a little bit to an article that's coming up in just a moment. It was an interesting piece, and I encourage you to read the whole thing. I'm going to point out some highlights here. It starts off with saying that and this is all an op-ed piece from Nick, and it's saying it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking about business management and accountancy in the music and entertainment as mainly being about protecting and managing income, shrewd advice, sound investment, savings accounts, and the like. While it's partially true, the good ones should be doing a lot more. They work with and advise their artists on income generation. And that's not just chasing them out on tour either, but exploring other more creative and inventive approaches, ideas for supplementary revenue that toe the fine line between helping generate as much value as possible for an artist without ever taking their fans for granted. So the couple points here is one. The first is talking about diversifying revenue streams. And this is generally speaking, the first thing that a fan base wants is the live experience. That was true in the 60s and that is true now and will likely be true in 2050. But even so, it's crucial that artists and their business managers have other means of driving revenue. Well, aside from the fact that maximizing diversity of revenue stream is simply good practice, it's also contingency for unforeseen events, like what's happened in the last year. So they talk about this, a thriving income stream is an excellent way to engage directly with fans, both nurturing and cultivating demand. Indeed, one aspect of a non-live model that can be particularly effective is direct-to-fan marketing. That is exactly what it sounds like, a band or artist selling directly to their fan base without relying on a retailer or distributor as a middleman. For the artists, the profit margins are much higher. For the fans, they have the certainty that what they are buying, whatever it might be, is coming straight from the band itself. They talk about feeding the cult fan base. And they talk about using Killing Joke as an example here, that's, it's a massive fan base and that is a huge cult following. But they're talking about the emerging artist digital native approach. And this is when they say, but what you haven't got the luxury of a big loyal fan base and live performance. And what has been your primary means of building your audience? Well, that's a certain trickier, but actually a lot of these principles apply. It's still about your understanding the fan base, even if that fan base is more prospective than established. So they talk about the D to F attitude here, forging a digital intimacy that's invaluable in terms of creating a sense of connection between them. This doesn't generate income directly, but it does lay the foundation for other platforms to do that and better reflects the ways and means that younger generation of talent consumes content and connects with artists. Patreon, for example, doesn't just give fans access, but allows for the potential of a personal experience. For the fan base, this goes some ways to mitigating the impact of not being able to see your band or artist live. For an upcoming artist, it's an income stream they can really cultivate. Of course, non-live income models and direct-to-fan revenue will never replace live music, but as the pandemic has starkly shown, good business management is also about financial foresight. This is something. I mean, there's a few things here. I when they talked about this to the direct consumer and selling, you don't have to have the middleman. So an artist, the band or artist selling directly to the fan base without relying on a retailer or distributor. For the artist, the profit margins are much higher. Now, yes, if the profit margins are much higher if you are an artist that has cash flow and can pre-order merch. I mean, there's plenty of these sites that you can have as a merch site, but your margins are you make $1. I'm going to sell a mug here for every. I don't even have my mug. Where's my hat? I was just going to show you some Music Industry City merch, and I don't have my Music Industry City mug. And so for everybody in the live stream, just pretend I'm holding a Music Industry City mug. This mug you can buy for $16. Do you know how much money I make on this? $1. After that, after the cuts, I get 79 cents. So if I want to sell merch, I have to use these other, made to order drop ships. They're great. And it's a great way. But the fact is, if you're looking at, profit margins, here's the other thing. And this is, I'm leading this into a conversation that I'd like to have people come back to tomorrow here in the Music News Power Hour is about creator burnout. What this article is saying is there's all these different places. Patreon. Okay, as an artist, open up a Patreon account. Well, I got to learn how to use Patreon. And we were talking about this early in the morning show as well, is that all these different platforms where, hey, you can make money on Instagram. You can make money. You can get a tip jar. You can create an event on Facebook. You can have subscribers on Twitch. Well, wait a second. I can make money on all those platforms. That's fantastic. Well, if you're trying to make money on all those platforms and it's just you're going to burn yourself out. Like, what content do I make on Twitter? Twitch? What content do I make on TikTok? What type of content do I going to give away to Patreon? I have to learn all these platforms. I have to master them. And it's overwhelming for so many artists and content creators, and also to keep up with the updates. Keep on with the updates. I know even right now, I think Instagram, it has the merchandise store, and they're tying it in with Facebook, this merch store. So to be an artist and a creator is that whole issue of saying, like, I have to learn all this, but I still have to write great music so my fans enjoy my music and then be authentic. And tomorrow, I welcome you back here because the second half, at the half-hour break, we are going to talk about creator burnout, and I would like to get people's thoughts on this. This is, it's mental health, it's creator burnout. Put that on your calendar if you'd like to discuss this and be prepared to come up to the stage. I'd like to have a roundtable in here tomorrow, because I'm going to go into the next article here, and this is on TechXFuture.com. Talks about, would you invest in a musician or band? And this is talking about tokenized fandom. So now we're moving along. Did somebody, Sadaka, I think you raised your hand. Did somebody raise their hand? Did you want to comment on that topic?
Actually, I just joined now, Peter. I'll rather listen to your conversations.
Okay. Yes. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Feel free to listen. But we're going to put you back in the audience if you're just listening. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. I mean, we appreciate if anybody wants to comment. If anybody wants to comment on a particular topic that we bring, please raise your hand to come to the stage to talk about that topic, and we open up for the roundtable. So thank you, and we appreciate everything. All right, so catalog sales keep dominating the news, but would anyone actually invest directly in a musician or brand? What would the return need to be to get interest for this, and can we move beyond investing related to future streaming revenues, perhaps toward tokenized fandoms? And it talks about hypnosis that still dominates the market news just recently with their annual report saying that Their net revenue increased by 66%, and Learn Report was 60.2%. The Hypnosis catalog songs are older than 10 years. There's more to the unique catalog playing field than just Hypnosis, with Universal's Music's acquisition of Bob Dylan's catalog, also Reservoir's acquisition of Tommy Boy's catalog, and all those catalogs share the common trait of consistently mainly of songs older than 10 years. This makes sense because those songs have all proven their value, and with music's nostalgia factor, will likely hold on to their value or grow it. This is much more difficult to prove or predict for new songs, let alone with the music of artists operating in a more niche genres. So it talks about our musicians, creators. So I'm tying this in with this creator discussion. And, it's talking about, first, we need to define what we're talking about when I say creator here, and that's from the author. I'd like to follow the following definition of e-marketer, which they put forward, saying creators are people or entities that develop original video content for digital properties and who consider creating that content to be their career or livelihood. Swap video for audio, and that's a decent definition of any musician or band. It's necessary anyway to stretch the creator definition. As Snapchat, for example, creators include people who create AR features. So if we're looking at musicians as creators, however, puts them in what they'll call the Daniel Ek corner of needing to create regular output to satisfy the various platforms and their albums. This is a very, very different mindset than the traditional music release strategy of record in a studio, release single, album, tour, record, start again. Instead, the creator mindset requires a strategy of audio and video with a big storytelling element that will further strengthen the bond between the artist and fan. All right, so they're talking about investing in royalties. There's companies like Songvest and Royalty Exchange. And, there's other things. Another company they're talking about, not just the investor, but it's about the fans. There's other crowdfunding platforms, monetary benefits like fans putting in the money. Amplify X is a platform that does this. And it's the different types of models and investment and return. So again, now we're looking at, a tokenized fandom. So we're tokenizing fandom. The community doesn't have to be big. It can be one artist and some friends, or a band and 20 fans. However small or big the community, what's important is the model of investing becomes almost reciprocal. Hypnosis is looking for an ROI, but fans are not necessarily interested in purely monetary returns. They would, however, enjoy claiming some form of ownership over what they love. This can express itself in the form of song ownership with the benefit of future royalty revenues. It can also express itself in a form of patronage, which the fan funds the creation of an artist not for monetary reward, but different rewards such as insights into the creative process. It's when this investment becomes collaborative that the value needs another revision in its definition. Tokens allow for this because they can represent value, but do so mainly within a community. All actions to build on that value thus strengthens the community. All right, we've seen this. This is crowdfunding, modern day crowdfunding with a variation. When they talk about fans wanting an ownership of something, is that necessarily true? We can bring up the three letters and talk about that, but we're not. I'm going to bypass the NFT conversation today. You're welcome. But when we look at now an artist, a creator, is like, again, they can look into this service platform. They can look into another. Now they need to learn how to, which everybody needs to learn how to manage their finances. First and foremost, that's really important. But now you're dealing with investing. What more are we asking from the content creators to get their music out there to generate revenue? This is an open thought piece. There's no answer to this. And if anybody has some thoughts on this, I please feel free to raise your hand. I would enjoy having this conversation, and I hope you can attend tomorrow when we discuss this in more detail about creator burnout, because all of these sound great in the moment until you have to put it into action. Paper sounds great. I'm going to go do that. Action? Wow, this is a lot of work, and I still have to get my song done. I still have to get my video done. I still have to get my Instagram posts up. I still have to respond to some comments. I still have to work. I still have to deal with whatever it is I have to deal with. I have to deal with life. And now I have to deal with learning how an investment runs for my fans and not let them down. That's a different thing than creating music. We are no longer just a music economy on that side. Anybody has any thoughts? Feel free to jump in.
I have a point of view on this. It may not be a popular one, but I I'm kind of used to that.
It's not a
I
popularity
don't
contest, Angela.
I don't see content creators and artists as the same, and I mean that in the kindest way. I think a lot of the content creators I've come across in my life, we used to call them media producers or content producers, and it's given that sort of title is because it meets a brief. It doesn't come from an organic place of I had this in my soul and I wanted to play it and put it out into the world, and I'm just a vessel for its transmission from the universe to the masses. That to me, that's an artist, that's a musician, that's a songwriter, that's a person who is, translating that into the world and has to put it out there in order to feel as though they're contributing to the world. Content creators, I feel like, have a whole different set of skills, and they actually can sort of produce things on demand. They can, almost like comedy writers can, whereas you give them a brief, you give them a premise, you give them a skit, whatever. They can write dialogue, they can direct a video around it, they can cast it, they can, find a location for it. There's all those things that come into play that musicians necessarily may not have in their wheelhouse, but still be able to write amazing songs. So I feel like there's, like, that graphic that you put up at one stage, Peter, about the content creator or the creator economy graphic. It's so easily and I think it's still in the show notes. Correct me if I'm wrong somewhere, but it it's so like clearly illustrated the difference between even the subtleties and different facets of our industry, and it. I mean, for my money, I feel like musicians are kind of having to wear those hats sometimes, but I don't know if they happen to be musicians, if I'd necessarily lump them into the content creator category and vice versa.
I haven't figured out the exact, and for anybody that was in our watching our live stream, one of the things you said there, they saw me like fist pumping. I'm like, go, go, go. Is, we look at creator economy, content economy, we look at musicians. It's the creators are different. We're creators. I mean, musicians are creators, yes, but this different area of creator, it's a different industry. It's like the music industry, and we had in the 2010s, that decade was like the new music industry. It's like, how many times have you gone to a conference with that title? Well, it's not a new music industry. Traditional music industry will always have its traditional roots and adapt and, grow. There is this creator music industry where these people are content creators that just happen to be musicians. And you have these are the Twitch streamers, and they have these TikTokers, and you have the YouTubers, and they're creating a community, and they have built-in economies that is like, hey, you know something, I can make a video really quick. There's AI video services, there's copyright AI. It's like there's these tools to make it a lot easier for anybody to do. And I think what is missing is a musician that wants to be a content creator, they get stuck into this music industry mindset of like, I have to go by the tools that are provided over on whatever music website I'm at. Whereas these content creators are like, oh, check this new cool thing out that I can create a 5-minute or 15-second video in 5 seconds. All I have to do is press these buttons, and people are following them. And then they're like, oh, by the way, I released a song, and all of their fans say, great, and they put it up on Spotify because they learn how to use DistroKid. Great. They can whitelist it on DistroKid, so allow people to stream it on Twitch without getting a DMCA takedown notice. So I think there's the creator economy that happens to be musicians really have nailed it. And there are musicians that have nailed it, okay? But I think they're, if they looked outside over to that creator camp, just be like, hey, I kind of want to play over there or learn some tips. There's a great area. I think there's a few other people just joined to the stage. Eli, did you?
Yeah, we have so many folks who have comments on this, and I would like to make sure that we give everybody a chance to share their discussion with us. I want to start with Tasha. Tasha, welcome to the stage. Did you have a comment on this headline?
Sure, I'll be brief. Sure. For the creator, because I would say myself, I am a creator amongst a lot of creators on the stage. It's a process, and I'm just going to piggyback on Peter when I say a process, how fans want ownership. Um, I feel as though as a creator and artist, a fan can get a certain percentage if they took the time to actually create something from my creation. It keeps the process going. So that's like a plus for me in the creative process where you do get overload and you have your content out and it's constantly here, there, and you're trying to authentically, originally put it out on your process, on your creative side, because you
Right.
create art. Yeah,
When you're
so
when you're just trying to keep that perpetual forward motion just moving for your content, for your art, for your legacy, for your career. That's so true. That's so true. And these, I think your words are resonating with a lot of us here in this room on this topic. Thank you so much for sharing, Tasha. I want to take a moment, if I can, and move on so that we make sure everybody gets a chance to comment. John, did you have a comment on this headline? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting me up. And yeah, I was listening. I was literally thinking about this idea between content creator and artist yesterday, and it reminds me of that old saying that not all socialists are communists, but communists are socialists. It's kind of, there's this really weird Venn diagram of content creator and artist, and unfortunately, I think that for musicians, which and I completely echo and with the burnout comments and having to learn all of these platforms and understand, and then also on top of that have to do this or be a dad or be whatever. Um, these places like Spotify, these streaming services, YouTube, they have all adopted the content creation model versus the art model, and those two things can live together, but there needs to be a little bit more of a separation, personally, in my opinion. And I just want to say thank you for having me, Angela. I appreciate what you said. I pretty much am echoing exactly your thoughts. So thanks for having me, and I'm finished speaking.
Right on.
And
Hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock for this conversation because we do have some. I want, and this is great, and we can go back in the post Spotify spot. So yeah, let's definitely keep running it. Everybody, just real quick, and I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock before we move on. Thank you.
Excellent. I want to make sure we get to everybody's comments. And thank you once again for joining our discussion. Neil, did you have a comment for us? Thanks for joining.
Thank you for inviting me up. It was just to agree with what Angela said earlier on. I think increasingly singer-songwriters, artists, it's not that they want to be creators. I think these days they have to be creators, and I think that's where some of the problem lies. You see it a lot these days with sportsmen, sportswomen. They have their career, and then some of them go on, but a very small percentage go on to be, let's say, TV or radio commentators. But they do that very often once their career is over. Of course, with artists, their career is very much ongoing, and I think it takes a very special artist to be able to conquer both the social media platform and their own singer-songwriter, whatever platform that they're trying to progress. And I think very often it's, or at least it can be, the songwriting, the performing that takes the hit, purely because continuing to have, or feeling you continually have to produce content as opposed to your artistry.
Music.
I
Music.
think that can so easily take a toll, unless something Peter was saying earlier on, unless you bring it right down to one or two platforms, but the
Right.
work involved
Right.
is absolutely overwhelming.
All
It,
right.
it
Thank you,
is
Neil.
overwhelming. It is overwhelming, and it can plow you right over. And I think that that's why so many people are turning to social media managers to help manage this. But I want to step over to LJ for just a moment because I want to make sure I get LJ and Al's comments quickly on this headline before we move
Yeah.
on. We are looking at some other headlines, but LJ, welcome.
Hi, Eli. Hi, Peter. Hi, Angela. It's so nice to hear you again. Thanks for having this conversation. Yeah, so how I think about it tends to be a bit more binary. I echo some of your sentiments, Angela and John and Neil. I think of it as this: we are entering an era of enlightenment for creatives, as opposed, excuse me, I said that wrong, for creators as opposed to creatives. And I define them differently. So creators create something from nothing. And creatives, while they can also be creators, as said before, they are essentially copywriters. So they are creating something from something before
Yeah.
them. Um,
True.
All
and
right.
and and what I
Mhm.
think, what I see happening is this is going to become much more severe, and we're going to start to see the survival of the fittest in terms of creators that are willing to become creatives and have complete ownership over their work. Really understanding it, the again area of enlightenment, really understanding their own rights and how they can apply it to the future. And for those that are not willing to do that, may be weeded out.
All right. Thank you,
And that
LJ.
differentiation, that differentiation is huge. Thank you so much for pointing that out to all of us. This topic is incredible. This headline is fire. Al, I want to make sure that we get your comments on this. I did hear the timer bell, so we do need to move on soon. But Al, I'm really anxious to hear your comment on this headline before we move on.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. I'm walking my dog, so if I break up, just pass me on. I'm not sure what the signal is here. But what I was going to say is that I think one of the things that this Corona season has taught all of us as musicians and as creatives is that we have to expand our palette. And a part of expanding our palette is having to embrace the fact that we need to figure out other ways of earning. And, I think this groundwork has been laid way before us because, in a sense, a major artist, Bowie, went public many years ago. Prince did MPG Music as a platform of his own outside his Warner situation. So I think that one of the things that I'm doing right now when I work with younger artists is because I don't believe there's a singular person who can do everything. I think you need to find a team. Some people don't believe in teamwork, but I don't believe there's a self-made man either, and I believe it still takes a village. So those are my comments.
Thank you for that. All right, and we're going to move on. Thank you for everybody for those comments, and we are going to move on. Eli, let's check in with the weather.
All right, excellent. And make sure that you ping your friends into the room. We are Music Industry City Broadcast Network Music News Power Hour, and we are here with the Music News headlines every weekday from 12 to 1 Eastern. You can join us each Monday through Friday, and tomorrow we have a special edition, so please do join us for tomorrow's discussion and roundtable. It'll be our Friday Week in Review. Make sure also that you raise your hand if you'd like to join the discussion. You can visit our site to follow along with today's headlines or to learn more about anything that we have covered, not just today, but all week. Tap the greenhouse at the top of the room to join the club and get updates, and be sure that you follow your moderators. These are the speakers on stage with the green moderator icon. And you can register for free currently at musicindustrycity.com to get more updates about content both on and off Clubhouse. Now, let's take a moment and check in with our UK correspondent, Angela Randall.
Hi, everybody. That was a great conversation, a great discussion. I'm really glad that we got a few extra points in there as well, because it does sound like we're all on the same page. I'm going to go on to the next article now. This one is from Access All Areas, and the headline is live streaming shows could make UK industry £160 million a year. Revenue from live streaming festivals and concerts should reach £160 million per year in the UK, according to YouGov research. The survey of 20,000 consumers in the UK and the same number in the US found 29% of respondents would stream a live performance of their favorite acts, and that 33% would be willing to spend more than £20 on a ticket, with the overall average being £18.09. I think that's about $25 to you guys. The research commissioned by streaming services company Push Live and carried out in April also found 27% of respondents aged more than 55 are interested in streaming live performances and would be willing to pay more than any other age group, about £19.36 to do so. YouGov said those aged 25 to 34, which made up 33%, and 45 to 54, which made up 31%, were the most likely to pay to live stream a show by their favorite bands and artists. Some 67% of people in the UK attended at least one live event per year before the pandemic, and 23% went to more than 6 a year, according to the research. It also found the top 3 reasons for respondents not attending before the pandemic were ticket prices, travel costs, and family/work commitments that counted down in the percentages, respectively. Push Live founder Phil Tucker said, the industry has made their first tentative steps into live streaming this year, but by embracing the medium fully alongside in-person events, the benefit will be enormous, and it's likely only to grow. He said the live sector needs to learn lessons from the past year to ensure it's on a more resilient footing for the future. Quote, not everyone will rush back to in-person events, and there's still a risk that these shows will be canceled in the months ahead. Live streaming alongside physical events gives musicians and event organizers the opportunity to earn extra revenue, provides an insurance policy against the cancellation of physical shows, and can help reach people who might otherwise stay at home and not get the chance to watch their favorite acts perform, end quote. Among the events Push Live has been involved in live streaming are EDC Mexico, DNC 2020, GlitchCon 2020, Boiler Room, Def Comedy Jam, Gorillas, The Now Now, and Beatport Reconnect. So basically, as the article indicates, it looks like they're just trying to capture more market share as the older than 55s are willing to participate in events they wouldn't have otherwise gone to by having a live stream option. And surprisingly, anyone who falls in a category that's immunocompromised or maybe nervous about attending events following the pandemic could take advantage of this and open up an entire new revenue category for not only the UK, but the world. It's pretty great that they have this sort of study going on because it does make the case for these venues to implement some of the things we've discussed in this room before, like concurrent live streaming events that happen from concert venues and or other events that happen perhaps inside the same geofencing that may otherwise be available to those outside of the area who aren't able to physically attend anyway. So watch the space and we'll keep you updated with more information as it emerges in the space. Back to you now, Peter.
All right, thank you for that. I would like to see the same survey with the same exact questions in the same order sent to the same people in 6 to 8 months from now. Live streaming shows, it's interesting because, you know, the mindset is, hey, there's, well, what do we have? I mean, things are opening back up, but right, for the most part, we have had only live streaming. So therefore, it's like, okay, I am willing to pay for a ticket for live streaming because that's the only option. But now once people are going to start paying for festivals and disposable, you know, what's the disposable income of, hey, I saved up so I can go to that festival, but now I can't pay the $20, whatever it is for that live stream to see that other band. And I get, again, you know, the logistics and geofencing and everything is in there. All right. We have less than 8 minutes. We got a lot to cover. All right. I'm going to skip that one today. All right. Here's a really quick one. Apple Music adds search by record label. I like this one. There's a reason that record labels used to be known as brands. I mean, that Tommy Boy, that Def Jam, that, or like as DJs, EDM producers and DJs. And it was like, yeah, you knew the labels and you would say, hey, I'm just going to buy that by the label. So I love seeing this. And Apple Music has added the ability to search for music by record label. And it's both useful to fans looking for music similar to their favorites and a potential boon for record labels working to build a brand identity. And so the Apple Music, there's a screenshot here. It says, what's new? This update includes Made for You, a new library shortcut to quickly find your personal mixers and replay playlists. Other updates include record label pages with help you discover the latest and most popular releases from select labels. Various design enhancements and bug fixes, of course, as they always like to put in. So that's the update. What they're saying is they've worked out the label search rollout as a work in progress with Def Jam, Capitol, XL Recordings, Brainfeed, Stone's Throw, and Dead Oceans among the 400 label pages created of the many thousands of labels that have catalogs worthy of curation. And those labels, I mean, the ones they just announced, I'm like, those are brands. We know those as iconic brands. So this, I love this. April Apples told Rolling Stone, quote, when I was growing up, I wasn't looking for the album that had the Warner logo on, but I did go around looking for the Rough Trade logo or for XL. And to be fair to the major label system, Atlantic for a period of time. So it's really neat what's going on. I like this feature a lot and, just happy about it. But let's move on to talking about tech. This one is YouTube expands Black Voices Fund, opening new grant applications this month. The hashtag YouTube Black Voices Fund is opening applications for a 2022 class and expanding eligibility to include songwriters and producers, the company announced on June 9th, alongside a string of other new initiatives to amplify Black voices on and off the platform. Announced last year, the fund amplifies Black creators on YouTube by equipping them with resources and support to thrive on the platform. The fund will open grant applications for its 2022 class on June 21st, and for the first time, the program is now open to those based in the UK and Canada, in addition to US, Brazil, Australia, Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria. In a company blog post, YouTube director and Black Music and Culture Tumabasa also announced YouTube's partnership with music education institution 1500 Sound Academy to fund 10 full-ride scholarships to its 6-month live online 1500 Music in Industry Fundamentals program, during which recipients take courses in music production, engineering, songwriting, mixing, and the music business. Alongside the scholarship, Basa says YouTube has been working with community-based organizations to launch a Futures Insider program of quarterly workshops targeting 180 at-risk and underserved youth aspiring to enter the music business and music and creative industries, a program which expanded globally last year. And finally, she reflected on the fund's success to date. In January, the fund welcomed 21 artists to an inaugural class of 2021, and by April, the class collectively received 1.4 billion views on their official YouTube channel. 6 artists of the programs saw more than 50% subscriber growth during that period, while the latter 4 artists in the grouping also saw 200% growth in their channels. Since its founding, the hashtag YouTube Black Voices Fund has also launched a content series to events to celebrate Black culture that has included To Change Money Maker Fund series, awarding a total of $55,000 to Black entrepreneurs who pitched business ideas on the show, and Studying Abroad live stream concert series celebrating the African diaspora. All right, so this is on June 21st. The application will be available at YouTube creators. All right, so sorry, I just want to get over to this article now. All right, so the Ronnie James Dio, this is in youdiscovermusic.com. And again, you can go to our website, musicindustrycity.com. You can click on the show notes to catch anything that we just might have gone over really quick and you want to go into it deeper. This one is for a very good cause. This is the Ronnie James Dio Cancer Charity Plan Star-Studded Virtual Fundraiser. The Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund will hold a star-studded virtual fundraiser on what would have been the heavy metal firebrand's 79th birthday, July 10th. In addition to archival footage from Dio throughout his life, the event will feature guest performances, interviews, and birthday wishes from many of his friends and family. The charity, which is selling merch associated with the event, will be offering signed copies of Rainbow in the Dark, the autobiography, which Dio wrote with his widow and manager and journalist, widow and manager Wendy Dio, and journalist Mick Wall, for sale on July 27th. A press release states that the book's content will comprise, quote, everything from his fallout with Ritchie Blackmore, the drugs that derailed the resurrection of Black Sabbath, the personality clashes that frayed each of his 3 bands, and the huge bet he and his wife Wendy placed together to launch the most successful endeavor of his career, his own band Dio. The book also begins and ends at Madison Square Garden, which, quote, represented the pinnacle of success to the metal legend. So much more there. Okay, and let's get into the Spotify spot.
It's the spot. It does hit the spot. This is the Spotify spot. We want to quickly check in with your weather. Don't forget, it's great weather for riding along in your automobile with or without your baby at the wheel. Now we go over to the Spotify spot where we check in with digital technology and music news. Over to you, Peter.
All right, so this is Spotify fan survey shows vinyl is top merch choice across all genres. Spotify recently concluded a wide-ranging fan survey that anyone tuned in to the marketing side of the music business will likely find valuable. In addition to a few of the surprises, the Spotify fan study revealed that vinyl reigns supreme in the merch department regardless of genres. It covers a wide range of data, band, label, and manager find useful. That said, it also brings up a number of surprising points that seem somewhat counterintuitive for the world we live in today, but are certainly worth checking out. So they're talking about like newer artists. They go in talking about the types of ancillary music merchandise that each music genre fan buys is fascinating. For instance, more hats are sold to country music fans than any other genre, while rock fans are overwhelmingly love T-shirts as their favorite music accessory. While the merch was divided up into shirts, outerwear, CDs, hats, and general accessories in the study, its vinyl sales were most surprising. For instance, vinyl was the #1 merch purchase in every listed music genre except for rock and metal, even if there was #2 on the list. Vinyl sales are even more surprising when you look at the artists who are doing the most selling in comparison to other merch. Of course, there are always legacy rock artists that have fans that will buy new releases in the format, but the releases that none of these artists are having the most success. So they're talking about new artists, and they're talking about in 2020 found that vinyl made up almost 60% of their merch sales, while artists who first release came out before 1980 found that it composed of only around 24%. On the other hand, those numbers were flipped when it came to T-shirt sales, which makes sense when you think about it. There's a lot more to this article. Check it out. The show notes, musicindustrycity.com. Click on the show notes graphics. And we got to wrap this up. All right, Eli?
All right, excellent. Thanks for joining us today. Don't forget, we are here each weekday, 12 to 1 Eastern in the Music News Power Hour on behalf of my UK correspondent and friend, Angela Randall, and myself, Eli Window. Thanks for being part of today's broadcast and discussion. Please join us again tomorrow. Great broadcast. Please also join me in thanking my co-host and the producer of today's show, Peter Schwing. Peter, take us home.
All right, everybody. Well, come back tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the content creators. Also, check out musicindustrycity.com. Also, Music Industry City on your favorite podcast player. We have the daily briefs and everything. We got to wrap this up really early. Thank you, everybody. Time to go.
Cheerio.
Have a great day, everyone.
Speedy cheerio. It's great to see you. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Hope you have
Thank
a
you,
great
everyone.
day.
Sorry for
Thank you.
interjecting with my laughter in an inappropriate time earlier.
Oh, you're fine.
Laughter always welcome.